Even though the NBA trade deadline isn't until February, right now is the point in the season where we really start to see some trade rumors heat up. Teams realize that maybe they're better or worse than they would have been. Injuries change different circumstances, and a lot of players start to come available. We're getting a lot of rumors coming out right now about some possible trades around the league, and that's what I want to talk about in today's video. Really quickly though, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Prize Picks. If you're a big time NBA fan like myself and you feel like you have a good grasp of what's going to happen in some of these NBA games, you want to try and win some cash for it, Prize Picks is a great place to be. And right now, if you click the link in the description or you use code SPORTING at Prize Picks, you get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Again, you get a 100% deposit match up to $100. That link's in the description, and use code SPORTING as well. And just to help you out even more this week, Prize Picks is offering a free square selection for Justin Jefferson on Thanksgiving night. If he gets a single yard for Minnesota on Thanksgiving, that is a free square for to use out of your 2 to 5 selections. Again, that is just this week on Thanksgiving over on Prize Picks. Now, if you've never used Prize Picks before, I'm going to explain to you exactly what it is. Basically, you go onto their site and you pick between 2 and 5 players, and you try and figure out what you think is going to happen in each of these individual games. It's just you against the numbers. So, for example, you can see they've got some more or less numbers here for assists, rebounds, points, assists, rebounds combined, made threes, turnovers, steals, anything you can think of pretty much in an NBA game that could happen, they have it for you. And you just select more or less for each of these players. Again, you pick between 2 and 5 players, and if you're correct, you win some cash. Prize Picks is available in over 30 states, and it's not just NBA stuff either. Obviously, it's Thanksgiving this week. If you want to get in on some football, if you want to continue to do the NBA stuff this week, you can combine sports. You can do all different kinds of teams over on Prize Picks. And again, now is a great time to get started with that 100% deposit match up to $100. You click that link in the description, you use code SPORTING, and thank you again to Prize Picks for sponsoring this video. First up is the most significant rumor that we've gotten recently, and that is that the Atlanta Hawks once again are looking to trade John Collins. Now, this has been a theme for a couple of seasons, even before they signed him to this new contract, where John Collins has always been a good player for Atlanta, someone that can space the floor, guard a little bit for you, but has always just been a little bit of an awkward fit because he's not a true 5. He's not big enough to guard defensively at the 5. They already have 2 bigs that they love playing, Onyeka Okongwu and Clint Capella. So there's not really a ton of room for John Collins to be moved around within the lineup. And he's also a guy that I think would provide a significant amount of value to other teams. And so given the investment in DeJounte Murray and his impending extension in a couple of years, Trae Young is already on the Supermax. They've got Capella signed to another couple more years. Okongwu's a guy they want to keep around. DeAndre Hunter is signed to an extension. John Collins has just kind of found himself as the odd man out for a couple of seasons. And the problem for Atlanta is it's kind of like Miles Turner in Indiana. Like, everybody knows that they've been trying to trade this guy for 2 years. Now he's on a bigger contract. And so it's tough, even though, the kind of player that Collins is could help, contenders around the league. I think teams like Brooklyn, teams like Miami, the LA teams would certainly look at bringing in someone like John Collins, depending on what Atlanta would want back. But it's just a little bit of a tough situation when someone's been available for so long. And it's unclear right now exactly what Atlanta would want in return, because again, presumably some of this is money based because of the extensions handed out to Trae Young that DeJounte Murray is going to want. DeAndre Hunter, like I said, Clint Capella, I know the cap's going to rise over the next couple of seasons, but still a very big contract for John Collins. And Atlanta's pretty good. Like, the Murray and Young thing has worked. They're one of the better teams record wise in this moment at the top of the East, a very crowded East outside of just Milwaukee and Boston. But it's a little bit of a weird situation for a team to be playing as well as they are from a record standpoint and be looking at moving one of their better players. But it's a roster construction thing. Again, I think it's someone that would have value to other teams. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a John Collins trade to, like I said, one of those contenders where maybe Atlanta's getting, some floor spacing back. They could play DeAndre Hunter at the 4, streamline their roster a little bit and run those, those 2 5s that they want out there in Capella and Okongwu, and, maybe get a wing and a pick or something like that on a roster that maybe needs a little bit more front court help in John Collins. The next guy is someone that we've known about since the offseason. For whatever reason, Jay Crowder's just not playing for the Phoenix Suns. I guess in the offseason, they were looking at possibly trading him, whether it be a part of a DeAndre Ayton sign and trade or whatever the case may be. And he's got upset. He was like, I've been a part of this organization. I signed here, and I've been, really trying to push to win a title. We made the finals together. He feels like he's a really integral part of the team. And his feelings were hurt basically by the fact that they didn't necessarily threaten to trade him away, but if they were going to trade one of their wings between him, Cam Johnson, and Mikal Bridges, it was going to be him. And so it's an interesting situation because he's an expiring contract, someone that hasn't played all year, but theoretically would really, really help a couple of contending teams, including Phoenix, by the way, if he would just play for them. But again, teams like Brooklyn, teams like the LA teams, teams like Miami, pretty much any team in the league, Dallas, that needs a wing that can guard and shoot, Jay Crowder's a guy they're going to look at bringing in. I don't think it would take a ton for Phoenix to part ways with him because it's a guy that's just not providing them any value whatsoever because, again, he's just deciding not to play for them. And so I would not be surprised either to see Jay Crowder get moved to a contending team and for Phoenix to get somebody back because they need him. Like, they need his presence on the floor. If they're missing one of their wings and in any given game. Like, he's a very helpful player and has been important to them over the last couple of seasons, but it seems like they're just going to have to, bite the bullet and move on here eventually. And the next up, of course, is Russell Westbrook. And the rumors on this have been all over the place because Russ and the Lakers can never seem to get on the same page. Like, before the season, it's Russ is bad. The Lakers are going to be decent. They're going to look to move him, try and create a bit more of a competitive team, use those 2 future firsts. Then they started the season and they were really bad. And they brought Russ off the bench. Russ started to play better off the bench, but the Lakers have still been really bad. So even though his value might be a little bit higher right now, he's one, kind of helping them because he's actually playing better, and two, his real value to the team in terms of upgrading this roster in a way that makes them a contender is not really there either. So one of two things has to happen. Either LA can try and sell high on Russell Westbrook and this new version of him coming off the bench, where maybe they're looking at breaking down the roster and they want to try and get some value out of Russ rather than attaching picks to him. Maybe there's a team around the league that looks at him and thinks, hey, in this like 6th-man role, he's been really good. Maybe we should bring him in. They try and capitalize on that. That feels unlikely. Or they continue to try and convince themselves that they are a Russell Westbrook trade away from being a contender. Maybe once LeBron comes back at some point, they start to play much, much better, and they look at the Russ trade at that point. But honestly, weirdly, it feels really unlikely right now that Russell Westbrook is going to be traded. Like, there is still rumors about him. The Miles Turner, Buddy Hield thing is still there. They still have these future picks. But given how bad LA is, I don't know that they're super excited about giving away, these future first-round picks alongside Russ just to marginally upgrade a roster that arguably is one of the worst rosters in the league right now. Certainly from a record standpoint, it's not really that arguable. So I don't really know what to do with this one exactly. If they did move him before the deadline, I wouldn't be shocked. But given the fact that he's pretty helpful, they need his offensive creation, with LeBron not playing right now, and it just being a weird fit in terms of moving him somewhere else, Russ might not get moved. He might be a LA Laker past the trade deadline, which seemed unimaginable at the end of last season and throughout this past offseason. Another really interesting one that I want to throw out here that I've seen is Gordon Hayward possibly getting moved in Charlotte. Now, Charlotte's not any good. We know this. Miles Bridges is still not playing for them for obvious reasons. LaMelo missed a handful of games in the beginning of the season. The rest of the roster is just not very good. If there was a player that maybe a contender could talk themselves into bringing in a trade, maybe it would be Gordon Hayward. A team like Miami has been mentioned. The big issue, obviously, is the contract and trying to figure out exactly how to make that fit within these rosters. But, and I've said this for 4 years, if Gordon Hayward's healthy, he's good. Like, he started to figure some stuff out at the end of his Celtics tenure after a disaster start there, of course, with the injury. And then when he's been in Charlotte, when he's been fully healthy, been like a borderline all-star caliber player. Someone that can create for you, can shoot, provides good size, can guard a little bit, can rebound the ball, can play on or off the ball. All that stuff is very useful to a contender. It'd be very useful to a team like Miami that needs a little bit more offensive creation, that provides them some size on the wing, a little bit of playmaking as well. He just kind of fits in really any role that you need him to. And he's not a role player. He's a level above that if he's healthy. And that's the concern. If you're Miami, if you're Brooklyn, if you're one of the LA teams, this is your move, right? Like, if you were to bring in Gordon Hayward, you'd have to give up, maybe a young asset, maybe a pick, whatever the case may be. And for teams like that don't really have a ton of assets like that, Gordon Hayward would be the move. And that would be, your big chess piece this season. And if it doesn't work out because he's not healthy, then you've basically just missed your opportunity to upgrade the roster in a significant way elsewhere. But theoretically, I say this all the time, but if you could just turn injuries off, you just turn the injury slider to 0 on 2K, Gordon Hayward would be a very, very helpful addition to pretty much any team around the league. He's someone that I think continually gets underrated because of the injury issues, but if fully healthy, I would love to have him on the Nets. I'm sure my Heat fans would love to have him, assuming they didn't really have to give up that much. And if you're Charlotte, you're going nowhere anyway. You might as well tank your way to the bottom. And if Gordon Hayward provides value to a team this year, it'd be a good idea to get out of that money, move on from that situation, and just get some assets and move forward, play some of the younger guys and go from there. Someone that, again, I think has value. I don't know if it's going to happen. The rumors are a little bit scarce on it right now, but as Charlotte continues to have a worse and worse record, we're probably going to see them lean into the tank here, because them getting either Scoot or Victor Wembanyama is a complete game changer to them, and certainly is not something that they should, risk losing just by keeping Gordon Hayward and maybe being a little bit better than they should, assuming that he stays healthy. Then last up, the Indiana Pacers continually are in trade rumors. We've got Buddy Hield, we've got Miles Turner, we've got 1,000 different things. And the interesting thing to me is Indiana's actually not that bad. Like, Mathurin's pretty good. Tyrese Halliburton's pretty good. I know that they've dealt with some injury issues and things like that, but their record is actually not that bad. And I expected them to be one of the worst records in the Eastern Conference, but offensively, they've managed to put together some really fun lineups. When Miles Turner plays well, he looks great. Buddy Hield provides some spacing. Chris Duarte, before he got hurt, was doing some really good things. But it still just feels like a team that needs to break it down and needs to trade stuff away, right? Like, Miles Turner's probably not in the future plans of the Indiana Pacers, nor is Buddy Hield. This is a Tyrese Halliburton, Mathurin, maybe Chris Duarte future of the team. And again, just like the Gordon Hayward thing, if you can get value out of guys like Hield and Turner and force your way more more towards the bottom of the standings, like it's not worth keeping those guys and losing out on the possibility of getting someone like Victor Wembanyama or Scoot Henderson. You've got these future picks, you've got these assets, you're in a really great position. I think Rick Carlisle has done a great job as the coach as well, and you're going to need to actively make the roster worse because he's going to continue to find ways to win games and put together a really good offense. And if you start winning 35 games in your Indiana, that's just not the position you want to put yourself in when you have an opportunity again to bring in someone like Victor Wembanyama. I would be very concerned. I really would. So I would make sure that I would hope that they would make sure to take a look at trading away guys like Turner and Hield. Those guys are going to be helpful to any contender out there. They're going to end up on a different team. I'd be shocked if they are still on this team past the trade deadline. And the teams that we continue to mention, Brooklyn, Miami, Philadelphia in there, either LA team if they want to upgrade their roster. Miles Turner is a rim protector and a floor spacer is incredibly helpful. And Buddy Hield's one of the better three-point shooters in the entire league. Any contender around the league that has anything to offer to Indiana, they should be taking a look at that. I think they're still kind of waiting on the Russell Westbrook thing to hopefully materialize for them. But if it doesn't, I still would expect both of those guys to get moved, or maybe some other pieces on this roster as well. Let me know down in the comment section below some other rumors you guys have seen floating around out there as we get a little bit further into NBA trade season. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see y'all next time.